Welcome back to Mompreneurs, where we talk about the real deal, the raw and the real and the relevant. And I am off the hot seat. I am so much more comfortable. Sarah and I were talking in the break, and I told her I was sweating profusely. I know you don't really want to know that, but I really don't like to talk about myself. So I'm really excited because now I get to turn the tables, and let's get to know Sarah Breen. Sarah, tell me all the things. Tell me about how you decided on medicine, because that is a very powerful decision, and then talk to me a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, no problem. So actually, I will tell you that when I was in 7th grade, I decided I wanted to be a veterinarian. And so I did all the things pre-vet. Because I don't know if you know this, but it's actually harder to get into vet school than it is med school because there's so many much more limited spaces. So I volunteered at the small animal hospital. I volunteered with horses. When I got to college, I was the president of the Pre-Vet Society. So I went all the way through until my senior year of college thinking I wanted to be a veterinarian. And something kind of struck me, and I said, you know what? I would like to shadow a people physician as well. And so I did, and he was amazing. It was an ER physician, family friend, and I loved it. So at that moment, I thought, wait a minute, I'm doing all of these activities for pre-vet because I know I have to for my resume, and I actually really wanted to go back to the ER. And in that moment, I completely changed my mind. And I decided to go to medical school. And so, it wasn't very far off. Veterinarian and pediatrician are very similar. Both are taking care of somebody who maybe can't tell you what's wrong and has an owner/parent with them. Very similar. But so medicine was always something I knew I was going to do. And I also, I had said to pretty much everyone, if there was anything else that I wanted to do, I definitely would have gone into it because I knew that this was the hard path. Going to medical school, going through residency. Residency almost killed me. I really like to sleep before residency, and so 30 hours straight, it was something I got through. But there was never a choice for me of anything else. Medicine was my number one.
And so now you've transitioned into entrepreneurship. So talk to me a little bit about that, and what are some of the unique challenges that you're facing now that you're a mom and you're in medicine and you're a new entrepreneur?
Yeah, very much so. I'm learning every day, which is great. And, it's actually pretty similar to your story, interestingly enough. A little different though. So number one, the biggest challenge, of course, was my identity. Again, I've always wanted to be a doctor. I was a doctor. My family was like, you went to medical school. Why would you ever give that up? And even my husband's family said that. That is who I am. I don't even know. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot that came with it. And I'll tell you, basically what happened was I had worked full-time until COVID. And once COVID hit, my husband was already an entrepreneur at that point, which was a huge shift for him, as before that he was a journalist. And so his company did well during COVID, and so I was able to step back a little bit and be part-time. And going from full-time to part-time was a huge piece of relief on my point, and my kids were so much happier. Like there was a shift in the house, and that was huge to me because being a mom has always been my top priority. And so between that and also, differences between my husband and I in terms of communication, I just got a little bit, like you said, a little bit bored in the same thing every day kind of deal. And not necessarily, I love my families that I treat in pediatrics, and I'm still there very part-time because I love it. However, it is the same thing every day, and I needed more. I needed something different. I needed a different kind of life, something that I was never brought up to see. I was straight line, you work, you retire, whatever. I don't say the other word, but when it comes to entrepreneurship, there's a whole different lifestyle. And so I was drawn to that, and I was drawn to something different. And so I decided to give it a try.
So you talk about, we both talked about this. We're pretty similar in that you don't really have to think to be a pediatrician.
Right.
Once you get to a certain point, I mean, like every now and then you need to.
Yeah.
But in the general day-to-day, it's almost like you could do it in your sleep. And so you were looking for something different. Were you looking for something different from a personal growth standpoint or from a challenge? Or talk to me a little bit more about this, because entrepreneurs always face this. Mm-hmm. I face this a lot. People go, why are you doing all these businesses? I can't hardly get one. Well, it's because I'm ADHD, and if I don't have a challenge, I don't get up for the game. If I don't have to think and use my brain and get really excited to solve big problems, and it's just every day, coaching is easy for me. I don't have to think about it. So of course I'm gonna go get that challenge somewhere else. Talk to me about what that motivator was for you, and how did you deal with that? Because there's guilt associated with that. There's things locked up in our identity, and how did you make that shift? Talk to me about that emotional, mental, physical process, because I know several of our viewers are gonna feel this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think there's a lot to it. I've always been a person who likes to do many things at the same time. So I've never had one group of friends. I've had 6, because I just like to be with different people at different times. So that's part of it, but also I think turning 40 was part of it too. I don't have I knew there wasn't something specific that needed to change. It wasn't a marriage, a kid, job thing. It was the overall restlessness. That's what I would say. And when the opportunity jumped at me, it was most of my decisions that have been really good in my life have come like that. Where I went to college, going into medical school, obviously, was one of those. And so it was a couple things at the same time, and I was like, wait a minute, let's try it. And so I think for me, though, what helped me transition was because it was a slow transition. So when I agreed to start running my husband's second company, I said, hey, I have no idea if this is going to work. And maybe that was because I didn't have faith in myself, full-blown imposter syndrome at that point, since I've never run a company. But I also, I wanted to take it slow. So I said, listen, I am going to just try this. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, at least I helped. Or maybe didn't, I don't know yet. But that for me was really important, because I need a little bit of time to process change. And so I was able to slowly drop days at the office while increasing my workload with my husband.
And not everybody has that opportunity. Sometimes we're pushed in, sometimes we jump in. I'm the jumper, and sometimes we do have that slow transition. But you said something that I really want to hone in on, and that's the imposter syndrome, because everyone has it.
Yeah.
Folks, we all have it. I have interviewed people who are seen as the most successful, the top of their industry, and the first question they go is, what on earth could I actually offer to your audience? And I'm like, wait, what, really? So talk to me about how you cope, strategies for dealing with imposter syndrome.
Yeah, great question. And I 100% agree with you. I actually think that's really helpful, just knowing that everybody has it. So I think it starts, in medical school, you're literally copying people. So imposter syndrome for me starts early. But when it came to this specific situation and becoming an entrepreneur and allowing myself to have ideas and not just be the backseat driver of this company that was sort of started, a lot of it comes in, finding your voice. And also for me, a lot of it, I'm words of affirmation is my love language. So having someone, at least in your corner to tell you, and again, but like you said, they have to do both. So it's useless to have a yes person. When you have somebody that you work with that's a yes person, that's not at all going to grow you or your business. So for me, it's, finding people, surrounding myself with people who support me but will be honest as well.
And how do you find those people? Because I think that that's something that I get a lot, and I get it asked on multiple shows. Men and women ask me this. How do you find the right person who's not going to be the echo chamber? They're not going to be your yes person, and they're going to challenge you, but they're also going to support you. How do you find that? What does that look like for you?
Well, I think, one is luck, honestly. Sometimes you're lucky and sometimes you're not. However, I think you also, when it comes to people you're hiring, this may be a crass way to say it, but you do get what you pay for. And I think going, doing the work to hire people who are, people who you would want on your team. If you're hiring people, why not, have someone who's just as smart or smarter than you so that they can come up with different things, even if they're at a position that's below you. That's only going to benefit you. So I think taking the time and the effort to make sure you're vetting who is around you, and learning to say no to, which is not easy for you or I, learning to say no to people who maybe drag you down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so incredibly important. And, entrepreneurship is hard. Being a mom is hard. Mm-hmm. Being a mom and an entrepreneur, that's level 100,000, more than one or the other, because you're thrown into both scenarios. You have all of these things, and you have to find kind of like a unicorn support group. We do have to take a brief break, but just to summarize, everybody has imposter syndrome. And the best thing that you can do is find the person who's going to believe in you no matter what and push you to become that greater person, that greater version of yourself. I think that was very powerful. And also remember that we can do anything that we want with the right team. Hire for the people that are smarter than you so that you can grow. And what I like to say, Sarah, is hire for the company that you're becoming. Because if we hire for who we are today, we're not going to have the growing space for who we're becoming. We will see you right back after these messages.